Hey guys, Scott back with a new beer dissection video for you. What I have today is from New Belgium Voodoo Ranger Imperial. It's their Imperial IPA. Pretty common beer that's out there. I don't recall ever having this one. If you are familiar with New Belgium, I've done a couple of videos on their beers, at least at the filming of this video. So you can check those out. I purchased recently a new 12-pack compilation. There were about 4 beers. There was this, like 2 or 3 of this one, the regular IPA, a juicy hazy IPA. This one, the Imperial IPA, and the juicy hazy, I hadn't done reviews on before, so that's one reason why I picked it up. You know, New Belgium, so I may have it pop over my shoulder, the actual 12-pack. The other ones I'm probably not going to review again because it wasn't that long ago that I had done those first 2. New Belgium, I think, was originally, I want to say in the Midwest. I want to say Colorado, but I could be mistaken. They were bought out by Lion. I'm going to call them Lion Beverage, but I know they're out of Australia, which is like a subsidiary of Kirin. So it's kind of big beer, okay, like kind of the international version of big beer or Budweiser. You know, the Voodoo Ranger brand, which this is from, I mean, they've been pretty solid in the past. You know, I always remember them as being a solid, economical, easy to find IPA. I know for certain my local microbreweries and I'm you know, other ones, you know, in the United States that produce probably less hectoliters, probably produce better IPAs. But I remember them always being pretty solid, and you can find them. I always try to say when I'm rating beers, you kind of, you know, you take like, you know, you weigh it as being the best IPA or the best beer, or also sometimes you take in consideration that, look, sometimes you're at a grocery store and you just need to pick up a beer or an IPA and you want something solid, something kind of economical, not $24 a 4-pack or something like that. And I remember Voodoo Ranger brand has always been kind of, you know, that it kind of met that criteria for me. So again, I haven't had this one, or if I did have it, I don't recall having this one. I do, like I said, I think I have the regular IPA, and there's one other one that's already up on the YouTube channel, at least at the filming of this. And I just did a review on the juicy one, which probably get posted in a later date, the juicy hazy IPA, and of course this Imperial IPA. So this one's coming in at 9% ABV, 70 IBUs, International Bitterness Units, for those of you maybe not as familiar with that. You know, I think perceived bitterness is more important. Anyway, the balance between the malt and the hops, and remember hops can kind of, does a few things, bitterness, aroma, flavor, okay, hops. But 70 IBUs is pretty standard for a double IPA or an Imperial IPA based upon the Beer Judge Certification Program standards, which mean little to some people, a lot to others. I like having those standards so you know what to expect at a microbrewery. The other thing is, you know, we're spending money. You know, an Imperial IPA, you're expecting to be a certain percentage alcohol. Like, I don't like to judge beers based strictly on alcoholic percentage, but you're starting to pay, you know, $20, $24 for a 4-pack, and it says Imperial IPA. You expect it to be a certain, you know, amount of hops being used as well as ABV. And again, you know, just something to think about when you're looking at everything. So again, this one in particular, we just make sure, I sometimes can't memorize everything on here. They use Delta, Bravo, Centennial, Cascade, Calypso, and Mosaic hops in this. So for my home brewers that are out there that follow my channel, if you're looking to do a clone of this, I've used some of those hops, probably not, definitely Centennial, Cascade, Mosaic. I don't know if I've used Calypso before. Okay, so those of you home brewer that like to try to make, again, a clone of this beer, you can kind of, you know, try it out. But I'm sure on this day and age with the internet, you can find it pretty easily. All right, so Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA, I'm expecting this one to be kind of weighed very heavily. We'll see if it kind of weighs more to a West Coast IPA versus, say, a strict American IPA. See if there's anything else that I wanted to mention. No, that's it. So let's crack this bad boy open. I got my typical tulip oversized snifter glass. Okay, I think at 9% after I do this video, I'm probably going to take a nap. Okay, well, I'm going to do one of these a day. All right, so let's pour this bad boy out. Let me get about a third of it poured here. So let's take a look at it. All right, we got a crystal clear. It looks a little bit darker, like a medium to dark gold on camera there, but from my perspective, it's looking kind of like a dark straw, maybe a light gold, perfectly clear, no chill haze, not like the New England IPA, hazy IPA, just covered. It looks a little bit more like a West Coast IPA or a standard American IPA, but very crystal clear. Okay, no chill haze at all, about an inch of white dense foam, which is very nice. And that's it. So let's take a sniff of the aroma. Definitely a little citrus in there, like some of the Pacific Northwest. I know Cascade, Cascade is used exclusively in Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, so I can usually pick that up pretty quickly. This is using a bunch of them, so I get a little bit of that grapefruit. Some pine, there's definitely some pine in here, which is also a characteristic of the Pacific Northwest hop. Piney, resiny sometimes, citrus. Very nice though. You get a little bit of a white grape also, but it doesn't have that, what's that hop? Nelson Sauvin hop. Doesn't have, I don't think, it's not in this beer, but it kind of gives me that white grape, but I'm getting a little bit of those aromatics here. But citrus, a little pithy, malt profile, probably like a little bit of a light toast. I mean, I'm looking at it here. I don't know the grist on this. It wasn't pretty public. Actually, they did use some pale, they said on their website, that's right, I did look it up. There was some pale malt, and they actually said black malt, or just said black, which usually means black malt. This is nothing black malt. You usually use black malt in some porters and stouts. Unless wasn't reading their website correctly, but you definitely don't see that there. This looks like, if anything, it's using a low Lovibond crystal malt, like probably like 10 or 20 L at the very most, because you have that, medium to dark gold, maybe a light amber kind of color to it, but very pleasant. Okay, so let's take a swig of this. Cheers. Whoa. Definitely medium carbonated. I immediately get an alcoholic warmth or bite to it, almost a little hot, which I don't particularly like. Sometimes with these IPAs, it's almost a competition. People will be sitting at barbecues going, and they're showing you the can. Oh, I got, this one's at 9.2%. This one's at 9.5, and the other guy's sitting at 8.2, thinking he has a lesser of a beer. So there's a certain point that I don't really like to get that alcoholic bite. But however, when you're purchasing beer and you're like looking at an Imperial IPA and you're paying extra for it, you do want it sometimes at a certain percent alcohol. If you are paying $24 for a 4-pack, because, it costs more to produce, it may cost more to buy, so you don't want to be spending $24 on a, 4 or 5% beer, unless it's stellar and utilizing other things. But again, that's for another video, but just something to keep in mind. But this has that pine also. Pine, a little astringency. It's kind of like, definitely highly assertive bitterness here. And what did I say? It was at 70 IBUs. So, 60 to 100 IBUs for the double IPA is pretty standard. Once we get over 100, we usually don't perceive it any differently than at 100 versus 120. So if you want something that's, pretty bitter, and, the hop flavor, which some citrus there, it almost gives me kind of a candied, almost like a Jolly Rancher kind of taste. Like, you know, if Jolly Rancher made like kind of a grapefruit piney candy, you kind of get that candied sweetness, because there's definitely a lot of residual sweetness here. So, you know, maybe a little bit too cloying for me, even though it has high bitterness. And again, remember, we're looking at perceived bitterness, the contrast between the sweetness of the malt versus the bitterness of the hops. And it kind of gives you that perceived sweetness. And I'm not going to dive too deep into that, but it's a little cloyingly sweet. You know, you kind of get that sharpness from the carbonation, but I could tell this is going to be a pretty overpowering beer. The flavoring hops are not, you know, overwhelmingly high. I get a little bit more in the aroma than the flavor. So, you know, it's okay. You know, malt, again, light toast, maybe bread crusty, what I'm getting. You know, you kind of, again, that medium to full-bodied, definitely a sipping type of IPA. It would hold up well if I was going to do pairings with this. Very strong blue cheese, Stilton, very sharp cheddar cheeses, hard rind cheeses, you know, even like a sharp goat's milk or sheep's milk type of cheese. This would probably do pretty well with. Keep it away from your mozzarella and ricottas and things like that. But you know, it's okay. I mean, I'm not, you know, I find sometimes the hotness on this beer, specifically in other beers that are with the alcohol, when you start getting that 9%, 8%, kind of turn you off a little bit. So that's why I'm not going to rate this one that very high. I would say like a B-, C+. It just doesn't, you know, that just doesn't do it for me. So, I mean, you know, if you are into that, you just want the highest alcohol and something that's just going to, you know, hit you, that's great. But if you want something with a lot of complexity with the hops, aroma, flavor, I think this falls flat, this one. I've had other Voodoo Rangers. I think the regular IPA is a little bit better. I haven't reviewed that one recently. I did that one way back, probably one of my first videos on this channel, so maybe I wasn't as, you know, I didn't explain things as well. Maybe I will wind up doing that video again. But this one, the Voodoo Ranger Imperial IPA, it's just kind of like I classify this as a get drunk, cheap kind of beer. This really doesn't do much for me with the hops and flavor and aroma. It just has high alcohol. I wouldn't turn it away. You know, I wouldn't go out of the way, though, for it, too. I think in the 12-pack compilation, which I showed you over my shoulder, there are some other good beers in there. I think it's worth getting. And I think Voodoo Ranger and New Belgium produce generally good beers. But again, I would say, you know, if you're in the grocery store, you're not getting to your local beer store, you can't get to your local brewery, you know, you pick it off the shelf, you probably won't be that disappointed. I just don't think this one underwhelms to a lot of other beers. I'd rather have a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale at 5.5% than this particular one. Okay, guys? So anyway, till the next beer video, again, New Belgium, Voodoo Ranger, Imperial IPA. Probably had to pop over my shoulder a few times. It's okay. You know, it's just, but there's a lot of other beers that are a lot better out there. But for a price point, you know, and in the 12-pack compilation with maybe some other ones that maybe overperform a little bit better, you may want to try it out. All right, guys, so a little bit about this beer. Have a great day. Take care. Bye-bye.